Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
This time, we come to you from the afterlife.
She's not even joking.
This was a week that killed us both dead.
And you should see both of us right now. Both of us look like we've been kind of toasted over.
It's kind of a puffy and frizzly sort of a time. Last night,
my word.
I accidentally fell asleep in my clothes. And Luke was like,
If only
"Where's
Luke-"
Rachel?" He's looking around the house. "Where did my wife go?" "Oh, there she is." And I think it was probably like at 9 or something. I was just passed out in my clothes. But what I'm saying is when you go to bed at 9 and you wake up at 6 and you still feel crunchy and puffy and weird, you know things are afoot.
If only Luke could have taken a quick photo and sent it to me, then I could have shared it with all of our listeners.
I have a praise report. Luke did not take a photo.
So let's just try and rewind and give everyone. You couldn't possibly cope with a blow by blow, but let's do the flyover. So for Rachel, this was crunch time in the biggest of ways with her move.
It was a strange crunch.
Yeah, for me it was the first week of school and everything that attends that.
Teaching.
Yeah. No, both. Okay, so both of us have first week of school for children.
Yes.
I have first week of school as a teacher. Rachel's having the most...
We moved into our new house, but there were complications with that, which was that we had meant to... the plan was to move into our new house sort of like, I'll take the stuff from the kitchen and go put it into the kitchen. But
in that way that most people do.
Right, that's one of the theories that can be used in moving. But
what Rachel thought she'd do
ended up happening
is getting an egg whisk and whisking her whole house up.
Oh, my heavenly day. So what ended up happening was we had to be out of Mom and Dad's house, but we couldn't walk on the floors of our new house. So basically, at the last minute, instead of moving like normal people move, we decided to just take all of our stuff and throw it in the driveway in the country. And so we really gave all the other people a heads up of what kind of people were coming into the neighborhood. Just huge. And because we couldn't walk on the floor, it ended up being like...
and you had to be out of Mom and Dad's house because there were other people moving in.
Yeah,
it's not like Mom and Dad were kicking you out, you know.
No. There's another family who lost their house in an accident, pretty much, and they are moving in. So we wanted to get out and have them. They need a place to be.
It's like it wasn't just a.
It was better for us to put all our stuff in a driveway in the country than to make them wait.
It was not a capricious decision.
No, and it wasn't actually. We've known that deadline for a while. It's just everything ended up coming to the moment.
Yeah,
and it was pretty funny.
So there's that.
So we did that, but
this is also like Luke's
been pulling all-nighters. He pulled an all-nighter up at the house, painting to get... We had to try to get stuff out to get the floor guy to do his last coat. So it's been a couple months of insane trying to get the house done, etc.
So there's that. Then my additional piece.
And I feel like you need to know this really fast.
Yeah, okay.
Our first night there, which is when you're still not allowed to walk on the downstairs floors except for in socks. But we do a sock bucket brigade getting the beds into the upstairs. But the upstairs is still thoroughly construction site. Like, we had to sweep major amounts of dust and stuff out of the bedrooms to get people in there. And when we finally get into bed, it was a ways after midnight, we finally get into bed. And Luke and I are both just like with all of our worldly possessions in a jumble sale on the side of the house. And then Lena comes into our bedroom and is like, I cannot find any of my clothes. Like, I don't know where my clothes are. And I was like, where do you think they are? And she says, I think they're still in the back of the dump truck, which is Nate's dump truck, which we fill. So out I go in my pajamas, scaling into the back of the dump truck, which was really priceless because it's dark out there in the country, but there are northern lights. So I'm in the back of a dump truck in the middle of the night with the northern lights, feeling around for clothes-like baggage. And while I'm up there,
you're like, I'm so glad I put it in clear plastic bags.
I was gonna take back that tip. That tip only works. It only works if you're moving in a moderate, well-paced way. As it is, I have clear garbage bags full of things that never should have been together in the first place. But I'm feeling around for clothes in the back of this dump truck up on the hill in the middle of the dark, dark night. And it starts to rain. Not like little rain, like big, sloppy, thwappy raindrops. And there are all of our worldly goods just
lying about.
And Luke comes out here in the rain, and he comes out, and so Luke and I are in the middle of the night trying to unfurl about 4 acres of painter's plastic,
which lays down real nicely
on a windy hilltop.
Rachel, you forgot. No, you forgot. The worst detail of all, which is your transportation.
Oh, no. Yeah. Okay, so earlier in the day.
The same day, guys. Same day.
Before the dump truck incident. Earlier in the day, we borrowed Nate's dump truck because it can move a lot of stuff. So yeah. We were using that, and we were using my dad's truck, but we have whittled our way down to only one working vehicle, which we are just trying to make work while we finish the financial nosebleed that is building a house. We were hoping to not buy a new car, but we would buy a new car if there was a car we knew which one to buy, but it doesn't really make sense. It's a complicated issue. But our idea was basically to eke it out as we are until we can think about it, which we haven't been able to do yet. So, but at the day, while we're packing up everything, the
deadline. The day that is the deadline to be
I'm
out
like,
of the
all right,
house.
kids, get in the car. We're gonna go get lunch. And we get in the car. Luke's out unloading a load of stuff. I drive down the street from my parents' house and turn in the car just starts behaving very badly, like real badly. And it dies. So we pull over and we're dead on the side of Morton Street. So it's the day of the deadline, and I'm parked with all the kids on the side of an obscure road.
So Ben and I are in our old beater pickup doing a dump run.
Oh, it's
and so
good.
we drive to Morton Street and take Rachel's dog and several children.
Better than this is that we get to out to our house. We have our midnight painter's plastic. I looked at the weather when it was doing this, and it was said at the time of this huge raindrop extravaganza that there was 0 chance of precipitation. 0. None in the forecast. None was happening then. We're just getting pegged by these big sloppy rains. And so that was funny. Anyways, and it ended up being okay. It was not that big a deal. We got the plastic on it and it didn't really keep raining after that. So then Sunday morning,
Oh yeah, no,
Sunday morning.
Finish this,
yeah,
and then I have my separate overlay that makes this whole thing so much zip doodlier. But
yeah, well, it adds to the whole aura. But we go. Okay, so Sunday morning we rack it out. We get the kids all ready. Luke had to run back to the house to get. He needed another guy to help him move something out of the basement, so we had a new handle for a shower that had to get put on, and he was going to reattach
for the old house,
for Mom and Dad's old house, put on the toilet paper holder afresh, and like a towel bar. So Luke runs early Sunday morning to go fix up a few things and get something out of the basement, but he has charged the battery overnight, so he had Dad's truck. He drives, grabs the battery he charged to the Sequoia, puts that in the Sequoia, and it starts right up. So he's like, okay, then I'll run this home and we'll take this. So then he drives out in the country with the Sequoia, and the Sequoia dies at our house. So now we have no car, but we're in the country without the car or the truck. So then he's like, okay, you and I will run in the dump truck back to get Dad's truck. So we zoom back into Morton Street, because now we've put Dad's truck on Morton. So we zoom back in, and I was like, babe, you took the truck and it had all my shoes in the back of it. So I had no shoes. Or I had like a pair of sneakers, but that was exciting. So he comes blasting. We come back into town in the dump truck, and he hands me the key. And he goes to pull a Yui in the dump truck, and I go in, and there were TVs and stuff in the cab of Dad's truck. So he locked it. But we didn't know that Dad's truck doesn't unlock the cab. Like, if you lock the cab, it's locked for good.
I didn't hear this.
Yeah. So then we have no access to the running truck. We just have the dump truck. And the key won't turn. So we drove over to Mom and Dad's house, their grandpa's house, and I went and pilfered the closet for a couple of wire hangers, and we went back, and Luke magnificently unfurled them and created a hooking mechanism by which he fed two hangers in the back window of Dad's cab and grabbed the door handle and opened it.
Oh my word.
So we broke into the truck on Morton. And by this time, we've just pretty much missed church all the way. Meanwhile, we're getting texts from our kids who are waiting in their church clothes.
But probably with no shoes.
They were like, ? Where are you? I'm like, that's a great question. And
Slightly
we're
nuanced.
unable to answer what we're doing. So we got that now. We did. And then we went. This connects to what Micah was doing for the weekend.
You have to rewind this, okay? So that's Rachel's bit of Tabasco that she's got going at her house.
It was good times.
And then I have the first week of school, but on Friday I am in charge of the NSA Welcome Back picnic for all the students. So I'm cooking, and it's like you don't have to RSVP.
You can only imagine how much help I was.
Yeah, Rachel it was thoroughly helpful. So, so it's not an RSVP event. It's like, you just kind of people roll up, and all the faculty and staff are invited, and they're invited to bring all of their families as well. So you have to sort of cook for if everybody shows up, And Rachel's gone into it.
No, I'm here.
Anyway, so I'm cooking for 240 people. So I'm doing pulled pork sandwiches, potato salad, coleslaw, brownies for everybody, and drinks and stuff. So I have two lovely women who are going to help with the cooking. So I've got one of them did all the brownies. So I'm paying her to make all the brownies. The other one did the coleslaw for me, so that was fabulous. And I did all the pulled pork and the barbecue sauce and the I made all the coleslaw dressing, and I did all the shopping for everything, and this was a thing. So I'm trying over the course of my first couple days teaching to then zoom to Lewiston to try to buy all the pork that ever there was and stuff. So anyhow, it was a lot of late nights and oh my gosh, and then Ben had a trip, and then it was I'm trying to cook 36 pork roasts, at the same time in my house. And, so this is Friday, and then it's a big Shazam because you've got to get it all packed up and to the park, and you're trying to get it to everybody hot, and, it's just a lot. There's a lot of things that come into play there and in the end of the week. And then this is the final layer. And that was the day that you had to be out of your house. So the day that Rachel's having to be out of her house is the day that I'm trying to feed 240 people in the afternoon.
We coordinated this really well in advance.
Yeah. So there's that. But then rewind, I don't know, a couple of weeks is when this first got brought up.
I don't know. Dad mentioned it when we were on our way to the airport to take them to France for 16 days.
Yeah, it's a couple weeks ago. Yeah. We get this message from a journalist that is doing some story for British television, and they want to come to Moscow. It's the BBC
wants to come film us in our natural habitat. But I don't think
it is the BBC. But they wanted to talk about traditional women's roles or something, and I was feeling super like, oh, whatever, I'm not interested in that. I don't care what happens here. And then and I kind of assumed that whatever story they're doing, it would show up in the backwoods of a media outlet somewhere and get 12 Instagram likes. That's kind of what I was thinking. And so I hadn't really thought about it at all, and I didn't really care about it, but they wanted to just come and talk to us and find out about our community and things. Now, we all know that that's not going to go well. Like, we know that we will be made to look like the biggest idiots on the planet.
I don't know, it's going to be like a special on the corn pones of Idaho.
Yeah, well, not just that, but the dangerous ones. They're probably quite backwards and dangerous and so we knew that it was probably going to be, here, can we come and make you look like a nerd for British TV? and so we were like,
I love what a friend said, a British friend said, I know exactly what they're going to do. It's going to be like featuring the man that you know quite well, who's just a wonderful guy, but when it comes up on the BBC, he's getting up before breakfast to look for mushrooms. And she's like, and you know that he's a lovely man, but they've made him look like just she said a lovely man who just happens to like mushrooms. But by the time it makes it to the BBC, he looks like a real mushroom problem.
So basically, we know that we're going to have a journalist here who would like to document our strange ways.
Right.
Like, you kind of expect David Attenborough will be, like, narrating over the top about the strange beetle.
Notice how
strange beetle we found doing weird things in its natural environment.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that was going to be happening, and they were going to be arriving on, like, Thursday night. And then so Friday, they wanted to come to my house to film me getting ready for the picnic. And Ben had said, like, NSA we were like, no, you can't come film at the picnic because there's too many people. That we realized that if we need to be made to look like dweebs upon the British television, that's okay, but we don't want to commit other people to that. So we were like, nah,
we should be clear, they were fishing hard for us to commit other people to it. They wanted us to give them people's homes they could go show up at and try to film.
You just don't want to do that to your friends unless your friends are equally ready to
be featured as the mushroom man on
the grenade. So anyhow, we had that coming, and so on Friday they were gonna come over and talk to me while I'm getting ready for the picnic. So I need you to picture in your mind's eye my first week of school. I've been running around like a crazy person, and now I'm trying to cook for 240 people. And my kitchen, as you all know, is very, very, what would you call my kitchen? there's not even a word. It's like Demolition Derby Central in there. And then you have Cook for 240 over the top of it. So, and then they show up and they're getting our consent to be filmed. And it turns out my hopes and my dreams about this being a little backward something on a blog
I don't know why you thought that, though, because I knew that it was from the beginning.
They said, you hear BBC and you're like, yeah, right, whatever. It's probably remotely connected to some obscure little channel somewhere, whatever. Rachel's saying no.
I'm like, I think we knew this all along.
I did. I was, people always puff themselves off as being far more important than they actually are. And so I just sort of thought, whatever. Well, guys, especially the British people, I apologize in advance because we're going to be on Channel 4.
When you say we, you should all know that Becca got really chosen.
I got singled out, you guys.
And she had to go give a tour of the Moscow Farmers Market.
I know. I assume it's just because, I wrote a book on feminism, and that's what they're here to talk about.
But they also really wanted to get into people's homes and feature people, and you had stuff going at your home.
Rachel didn't have a home that day, so
can't come to my house.
So I have them in, and so I can't tell you how very, very authentic of an experience they filmed because I was there with my two girls who didn't have class making all the potato salad you could ever hope to imagine, and I'm pouring barbecue sauce into teeny little containers to put in everybody's individual bagged dinners. And then they're asking me about feminism and I've got my red bandana on, you guys. It's a whole thing.
Were you barefoot?
I believe I was.
Yeah, barefoot in the kitchen.
I was probably, this was the dining room because my kitchen has no counters.
Oh, right.
So then they did that on Friday. Then on Saturday, that's when they took me to Farmer's Market and filmed me. And that basically means that now all of Moscow is apprised that something is happening because I'm having to see all these people that I know as I'm walking ever so slowly down the middle of Farmer's Market with the cameraman walking backwards in front of me. Everyone. It was not subtle.
I have to say, though, I want to clarify something about when we first heard that they wanted to come and they were like, can we talk to you about can we come? We did first say, this is not a good time for us. The timing is bad.
Really bad week.
The timing is not good. Find a different time. And they said, this is when we have to come because of the production schedule. So it's kind of like, this is when we're coming.
It's all right.
This is what's happening. But then, on the other hand, when we talked about it, about are we willing to, I talked with Karishma on the phone. And when, talking about what they would find here, what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I just said, the thing is because they're saying, well, what we want, what the story is supposed to be about is women who have chosen traditional, basically gender roles, traditional
reacting
lifestyles
out of the feminist ideal.
And she said, kind of like, what we really want to explore is why are women choosing this? So our discussion across the family that we had was, are we willing to have them come do this or not? And the answer is really, when you're asking us why have you chosen these roles, we all know the answer is the gospel, Jesus, the Bible. And when that's the answer, you have no right to say, I won't talk to you about it in case you might make me look stupid.
Dumb.
If you're going to make us look stupid, we're not going to tell you the good news.
Yeah, if they had wanted to come and talk to us about bread baking, we would have been like, sorry, no it's a really bad week.
Nobody cares. But when they're saying, what we just want to explore is why, it's like, well, okay, so what you want to hear from us, what you're asking to hear from us, whether or not you'll put it on the show.
Right.
Is the gospel.
Yeah.
So go ahead. And I will say, all of you loyal listeners, you should pray for that. This is our prayer was that it would be fruitful for the gospel, even for one, like if one person becomes aware of a different way of living because of this, and we look like mushroom hunting nincompoops, it's worth it. It doesn't matter. It's like,
I was praying that that it would be a really important and meaningful trip for the two people who came.
Right.
And then after that, whatever.
Who were? We should clarify. They were both very gracious and people. Kind.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you...
I'm pretty sure they're going to go back and they could edit me down to saying things that I would never agree with. You know what I mean?
Right.
Who knows what they're going to do? But then, but they did seem like, you know, they were
Friday
great.
night, we had a bunch of lovely women who all knew they might be made to look like idiots on the BBC, who still willingly showed up. And we had this whole group of women. And she said... Now, just by a show of hands, how many of you would consider yourselves feminists? And just nary a hand went up. We were all like, nah.
And it was funny. She was a lovely woman. I really enjoyed her. I have no idea what they're going to do with the show. And if they make us look like ultra crazy people, that may or may not be accurate. But the thing is, I've been praying that it would not make...
I'm not sure I'm going to watch this thing. I don't think I want to know.
I don't want to know. But I've been praying that it would not do damage to the name of Christ. But that if it does a lot of damage to our names...
our boats, that's all right.
It's okay. That's all right. But it was the gospel that they got hit with coming and going. I mean, it was... The whole weekend was gospel. And then we had them
I would say that the gospel was shared with them in different questions. I don't know. I would think like 8 or 9 times.
And then she came with us to church, and it was a phenomenally good sermon that she was there for. And then we did Sabbath dinner this week at our house, and we had to do it after church on Sunday because Mom and Dad just got back from France, and then Dad had to do a wedding on Saturday night. So it really was the most hecticest week that you possibly could have. And then they came to Sabbath dinner, and oh my gosh, everyone, they filmed me after church getting ready for Sabbath dinner. I hadn't even gone to the store yet. So it was the real honest to goodness.
It was the kind of time that
we
had no
time to prepare a big something for them. So anyhow, they came to our house, and it was just like all of us running around and cooking, and then some of the cousins showed up, and I had the girls all making bread on my dining room table, and it was all about as real as it gets.
And Dottie the roof dog was out in their dog, Merkel's dog, likes to go out an upstairs window and patrol the roof above the wraparound porch. So the whole time the BBC is filming us with our traditional gender roles.
There's a doggy on the
roof dog is on patrol up above.
Classy. So
and then the barbecue wouldn't work, so Nate brought his own Nate brought a different barbecue, and then that barbecue had a fire.
Oh, but they were there for Sabbath, and then
I came with my puppy face and the shoes I found.
I know, and I was wearing a terrible outfit because I didn't have time to come up with something. So it's like, there's all the fat rolls.
The rule is, when being filmed by the BBC,
don't have
an outfit ready. Don't
have an outfit ready, and if possible, don't have time to really fix your hair.
I would say, now you all know why we did that. Just bear that in mind when you see it, and also pray that, because one thing that I thought is that even if the BBC doesn't have any intention of making it look good, which I don't think that they can, because they don't agree with it, and we know that that they don't agree with us, and that they think it's silly. And like I told Charlie, it was like, the thing is that the cross is foolishness to the world. Yeah, so we don't actually have any expectation of our lives looking like anything but foolishness to people who don't know God.
But the thing is they're flying out this morning, so that's in our rear view mirror. I mean, and I hope never going to have to see what happens with that. But they're not done. They're going to go spend 3 weeks editing this thing in Oxford, and they're going to be pouring over that footage again and again and again, and they're going to get the gospel again and again and again. And so I think if everyone would just pray for those two.
Yeah.
and the people who watch it.
Yeah, because I was like, even if they try to make it look bad, they can't control if somewhere someone else is ripe for the harvest, and they see it. So
I just hope it isn't. I hope that it's accurate for the gospel, even if my fat rolls are not at all.
I think your fat rolls were proclaiming the gospel. You and I.
Oh boy.
We have the fat rolls that handle our publicity. I shouldn't tell people on the podcast these jokes, because then when there is a new picture of me, because I'm going to be at the G3 conference, and everyone is like, much better cropping.
I know.
I love that.
Anyway, but we did have a good time with them, and it was a fun weekend, and who knows how hideous we'll look. So everyone, it's a show called Unreported World. And the thing is that...
well, we're reported now.
We are on the record. But the one thing is, I'm pretty sure that Channel 4 is not the BBC. It's like the main competitor or something to the BBC. So,
well, it wasn't me that made up the BBC.
No, but, yeah, anyhow, can I recommend that you not all spend your time, hovering over the TV guide to find out when it's going to be, because I think I'd be much happier to just let this one go off into the distance.
Guys, we've told you all there is to know about it. No need to look. Yeah.
So that was our update for our week. That was a long update, but it was a long week. So that's why, to bring us full circle, that's why Rachel and I are sitting here in the car on a Monday morning looking like, well, you know what we look like, Rach? We look like my stovetop. I loved that he was in my kitchen getting close-ups of things going on my stove, and I had not yet had time to recover the top of my stove from the pulled pork fiasco. And so it still has like renegade bits of crispy pulled pork all over the place. And I feel like at least feel like a bit of crispy pulled pork myself.
Maybe it's not. I don't know. Now I don't know where I'm looking for this, how she described what they do. But I can't tell.
Yeah, it's just like British TV, I think. So, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, guys, that's what happened. But you know what else, though? We're not the only people they interviewed. And so the story is on the rise of traditionalism and conservatism and ultra-conservatism. And I said, ooh, are we your ultra-conservatives? And she said, no, you're not. You're quite mild. And so I think they might have gotten way out in the bushes with people who are... Maybe we wouldn't want to share airspace with what they're doing.
Oh, well.
Yeah, exactly.
So, further up and further in, now life's just rolling along. Today's the day that we should be allowed to have a furniture on our downstairs floor.
That's so exciting.
So, I need to get, that sorted out.
Gotta, pull up your socks and get ready to go with that.
Yeah, but like our dishwashers are not hooked up yet. And our washers and dryers are not hooked up yet. So we're a little not at full fighting force yet.
Not quite.
But we're getting there.
I have one or two things to recover from at my house, like, the picnic for 240 and then Sabbath yesterday. Mm-hmm. And then, anywho, there's that. But I'm also hoping that I'm going to get there's one little cupboard that's coming along.
Oh, and tomorrow.
At my house. I'm going to paint it.
Tomorrow I do the first Yoo-Hoo for Teens.
Oh, fun.
Webinar.
Nice.
It's a webinar. Which is
that's cool.
For teenagers on...
Can I just say,
who you are? Yeah.
I was thinking about, when you have people in from so far outside of your own lifestyle choices, and they come in and they're taking a real hard look at our lives. I was telling my kids this, and I think yours it's the same, is that I feel like our kids are probably the single weirdest piece, because we have a big mob of really fun, funny, cute, accomplished kids who are actually on our team. They're like, you know, like my girls were in there helping me, but they're not like surly little stinkers slamming the doors in the background and can't wait to get out of this madness that they've brought me up in. You know, like, and I honestly think that is a very surprising component, is teens who are not having flustery times.
Right.
You know? And that's a huge blessing. It's like, I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. I always think that when people ask, what did you do? How did you get this? Or what did you do about this? It's so interesting to me how you can say there are things that we know we did, but it's a gift. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, we didn't accomplish this. Like, we didn't somehow give ourselves the gift of teens that believe and are,
it's very much God.
Right. It's like, well,
but it's also, I will say too, that can make it sound like it's just a fluke and there's no way of producing this.
No, I think what it always draws my attention to is how intricately God has connected obedience and fruit with just his own, that all of it is his grace. All of it is that as we obey, we're only obeying because he has enabled us to, and it is a gift. Totally. And then when you see the fruit of the gift he gave you at the first place, you know, it's a really, I don't know, it's an interesting, it's a very sweet thing to see.
It is. And it's also like so much God's kindness combined with, you wouldn't want to make it sound like it's totally haphazard. It doesn't matter how you parent. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and it's just totally up in the air. Because it's not like that. We do think God works through means, but his means are obedience and repentance.
I think what I'm trying to say is that the fruit so vastly outweighs the obedience that it can be nothing but of God. Like when you, and it's not even like the obedience is the money we put in, and it's nothing like that. It's just that there is this design in what God has told us to do. When you said the very simple steps of confessing our sin and getting things right and seeking to obey and reading the word and loving the Lord and pursuing him, the obedience is not like higher math around all this stuff. It's simple Christian living that comes back.
But it is sort of like, I feel like I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase.
100%, yeah.
And so it's like, you can't say I planted and Apollos watered and then hooray, we did it ourselves.
Right, and none of this stuff is like, a great Christian education. Yeah, that's a big deal that a lot of people labored to bestow on, it's not like it was neither here nor there, but it does.
Yeah, but it's also like God brings the increase through Paul's planting and Apollos' watering. So it's like a godly father and a godly mother both working together. It's still God who gives the blessing, but he gives the blessing through, I mean, if you want to harvest, you do have to plant and water. You can't just sit inside and watch TV. But it's
also true you have to plant and water, but that the increase, like so many Christian parents despair in the planting and watering.
Yeah.
And they despair because they're like, that seems like an unattainable fruit out there.
Right.
And there's no way that this planting and this watering would ever yield anything. And so they forget that component that God gives the increase. And so they end up being focused on how small the planting and how small the watering is and how they don't see this. And then they quit because they're like, this can't possibly yield tremendous things. But forgetting that when God is the one giving the increase is large.
And sometimes people quit because they feel like this is so small, but other times they quit because it actually really is a lot of work and they get a little tired of it.
And they feel like this is so big, I can't do it.
Or it's like, okay, well, that was a bad day, but, I give myself grace. And then the next day it's like, okay, well, all right, that was a bad day. I'm just in a bad spell.
Forget
I'm in a slump right now. Everyone needs to be kind to me, sort of. Like...
Is that verse, he gives more grace? No. come after that. I was going to say I remember I'm sure I've told this story before, that I was just skunking it up one day. I know I blogged about it. Where I was just really not. No, it is right. It is together. Okay, so I was having a real squirt sauce of a day. I don't even know what was happening, but I think I was pregnant, and that made it where everything was unbearably tireder than it should have been, you know? And however, it came to a culmination of me in the produce section at Winco calling my husband, because I was feeling like, I can't live like this. This has to stop. We can't. This is no longer allowed. And it's actually really funny that I can't remember at all what was causing this. I just remember the sensation of being like, meh, you know, like, this is the worst ever. And calling Luke, and let's just have a little 3 cheers for husbands who don't put up with it moment. Because instead of being like, let me fix it for you, he said, it sounds like you need to confess that. When I'm like, you don't understand how greatly evil the times are, and that everyone is doing everything wrong at my expense. And I'm still the only one trying to work to fix it. And why am I here at the grocery store why does nobody else care? Why does, who knows what my problem was. But I just remember it being like, so it sounds to me like you need to confess that. And there's this silent moment on the phone. And he said, I want you to pray about it. And I just, me with the dang cart standing there like, what? And you just know, if you have a Christian instinct, you know that if someone tells you to pray about it and your heart bridles at the thought of that they're correct. They are right, that you are not actually in a position to speak about matters. If you think that praying about it sounds like a dumb concept, you're like, I don't want to pray about it. So I pulled over into the Band-Aid aisle. And there, pregnant lady holding on to my cart in the Band-Aid aisle. We had to talk with the Lord about it. And the funny thing is that what the Lord shared with me in that conversation was not that everyone else was doing it wrong. Turns out the Lord had a thought for me about it. And that Luke was very correct. And I'm like, oh. So, but the verse that just really came to my mind at that moment in the Band-Aid aisle was that the Lord resists the proud but gives grace to the humble. And I realized that where I was being proud. I didn't want to pray about it. And I was being proud in that I was in a snaggle-toothed, bad attitude day. Like, who knows what was happening? But it wasn't just me being a problem. It was no doubt a lot of children drawing attention to my lack of effective parenting at that time. So what ends up happening is you're taking it as an insult that you need help, when you're being a mess. And because I was taking it as an insult that I needed help, I didn't want to talk to the Lord about it because you felt like, no, I'm going to handle it. I'm going to get this all under control.
You want help. You want all the help except for the thing that will actually help.
Except for the one help that might really do it. I called Luke because I probably wanted someone to intervene. Yeah. I wanted someone to come fix my problems.
Yeah.
And he did by telling me to go get that pig sorted out.
You were hoping it would involve something more like bath salts.
Yeah, but I realized that the pride was thinking that no, I'm going to turn this around by like getting a coffee or changing the subject, or I'm going to like find a way to turn this bad day around, or by getting my husband to help me somehow, or by whatever, like
maybe if somebody would feel sorry for me, that would help.
Yeah, no doubt that'll pick me right on up. And so whatever my problem was, this realization that God resists the proud. And the reason I was so miserable was because God was resisting me. I mean, like, and you think of all the things. I didn't want to talk to God, but God was resisting my pride also. Like there's a way in which God was thwarting me in that effort. But the very next part, but gives grace to the humble. And to have the humility to say, Lord, I am really losing it here.
And he has to give grace to make you humble. So
he gave the grace to make me humble. Then he gave grace to me when I was humble. But the reason I thought of that was because it's right before that. It says, but he gives more grace.
Yeah.
And then it says, God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. I think so many times in parenting, you think, I'm going to figure this out. I'll sort this out. I'll do this. But there are all kinds of times in parenting where I am praying, like, Lord, just please give me some idea of how to connect with this child, how to say something that they'll understand, how to...
Well, you know what I think, too, is a way that pride can evidence itself in parenting, I think, is when... parents allow themselves hypocrisies. You know what I mean? Like, because that really is kind of the essence of it, is when you know what I mean? Like, you're tolerating secret sin in your life, or you're tolerating some kind of festering low-grade sin in your life, or you're hiding the sin from the kids.
You're not noticing how much of your kids' problems are a direct downstream result of the dead deer in your own waters.
Exactly.
We have a problem right here, and the kids are feeling the stank, but it is actually that I need to confess this. I need to
But I feel like the hypocrisy in parenting can really be a really big thing, where it's like you're trying to raise
that the kids
little
are going to not notice.
Well, but I think that oftentimes they might not know at all, and yet the result of it is evident in them, because it's just the old wisdom of take the log out of your own eye before you try to get in there with the specks.
Well, right, because that day that I was being a fusser at the Wincoat, no doubt I was annoyed that the kids were being fussers.
Probably.
No doubt. The problem was that the kids didn't want to do their work.
Yeah.
They didn't want to pick up after themselves, and they didn't want to do this, and here I am complaining it up at the grocery store.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're allowing logs of any description to remain in your eye, or sins remaining in your soul.
Genuinely petty kind of a situation, but we used to laugh about when we had kids starting secondary. They get much more stressed about being to school on time, and they have to be there 5 minutes earlier than the other kids. So there is more pressure, and it is a different
school.
It's more pressure. And so there we were with this nesting problem, because what would end up happening is, like, one of the older kids would be like, "Shattuck, get your socks on, get up! Why are you reading Calvin and Hobbes?" Whatever. Well, he was too little to do that, but my point is, they would be like, "Get your lunch. Why don't you have?" And then what would go? Then the parental voice would come in. "Stop bossing everyone." And you're like, it's like kids being bossy, 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 and then parents being bossy, bossy, bossy. Like, we gotta find a way. And it wasn't, and not even people being angry. It's just the tone being ugly. Yeah. It's like, I don't like our music. Let's change the tune.
And the thing is, like, I don't know. I feel like
we solved that with the bell.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it worked.
Bell systems, they put the fear in you.
Well, we just told we told the older kids that they were allowed to ring the bell at 8:00, but that they were not allowed to hassle anyone about what time it was or what. I was like, if you ring the bell at 8:00, anyone who's reading after the bell has rung is in trouble.
Okay.
Anybody who's lollygagging you know. But if you have a kid that gets up at like 7:30 and they sit down for a minute and someone's like, "What are you doing?" You know, like that's a little rude. Like, come on, guys.
It's true. It's
Anyways.
totally true. And I think that's a kind of like super obvious hypocrisy that the kids will see. You know, it's like,
that's what I meant.
Why are you allowed to use that snorty voice, but I'm not allowed to use it, or whatever? Why can you have that attitude, but I'm not allowed to have that attitude? That's a basic, obvious hypocrisy. But I think there are a lot of times that parents think that this little thing that I'm cherishing won't ever affect my parenting.
Right, like my discontent in my heart that's not being vocalized.
The fact that I deeply resent my husband, or a husband with a secret unconfessed porn problem, or a dysfunctional marriage that you pretend is okay for the sake of the kids. That's that is a deep, deep hypocrisy.
Right.
And then it comes out in the kids, but I think the parents are in denial and the kids don't know, but the whole thing just produces it doesn't produce the fruit.
Yeah, it just is sad.
And so that's what I mean by like, I think the planting and the watering is first and foremost, it's just like being faithful yourself, you know, like being faithful and obedient yourself and confessing your own sins.
And then expanding that with your children.
Yeah.
Expanding your own faithfulness to how you handle them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we should
wrap it up.
So
it's been nice. It's been real. Maybe next week we'll simmer it on down.
You wanna revoke a tip?
My tip is do not think that you're gonna just move stuff out of one house and into another one, and prepare instead to throw it all in the driveway, and also that will shift your packing.
If possible, when you have a sister in a moving crisis, organize your week such that you can be zero help at all. You cannot take her dinner. You cannot, because you can't take her dinner because you're trying to feed 250 people.
And there's no help for the wicked. That's how it works out. No. So thanks all for coming. Bye-bye. Bye.